Hello, I'm 5th District Supervisor Joe Baca Jr., and we're celebrating March Women History Month 2026. And today we have us with one of our leaders in the county, a lady that's dedicated over 20 years of community service and public service. We want to thank her for her leadership. She's part of our leadership team. We're here with Diane Rundles, who's had over 20 years of public service and also over 7 years with the County of San Bernardino. So Diane, tell us about, public service. Why is that important to you as a woman?
Well, it's important to me. I started off my career in public service in the U.S. Peace Corps. I was stationed in Jamaica, Trelawney, Jamaica, and I worked alongside community members to address all sorts of issues related to poverty relief, anything from income generating projects to water and sanitation projects. And that's when I realized early on that government has a really significant role in everyday lives. And I learned that when it works really well, communities thrive, and when it's not working well, communities feel that as well. So from a mission standpoint, that's really sort of what grew for me, that drive to work in public service, because I realized if you want public service to work effectively, you have to work from within and change systems and improve processes. And I work with a great board and CEO that understand that too and are committed to that. And as a woman, it's just an opportunity for me to also, as I've grown, learn how to exercise being a leader in that space and mentoring other women, and realizing in my own journey that you can go from being behind the scenes to being a leader and developing other women leaders and learning your authentic voice and your authentic leadership style, and really help to translate that to other women so they have the courage and the strength and the roadmap to succeed as a woman. So.
Yeah, no, I appreciate you talk about your personal growth and how you've grown individually, but also how you've been able to mentor others and bring other women along so they could have success. So tell us about some of the things you do with the County of San Bernardino. What is your role with the County of San Bernardino as an AEO? Share with the community.
Well, I oversee, I would say, the strategy and leadership and coaching of a number of departments, primarily in the space of our safety net population. So anything from community development and housing to our homeless services to our public health department. So a number of services that are really focused on the safety net area, our behavioral health, but also our performance education resource center. So not only do I have the opportunity to look at the service quality for our community, but I also have the opportunity to help enhance our own development from within so that we can strengthen our employees and their ability to really execute strategy, to really grow themselves in their own careers, and to impact those that they're serving as well.
No, it sounds great that you're able to impact. People don't realize 2.2 million you impact through a lot of the social services you do. But the other thing you talked about was the mentoring and the growth. So tell us about some of the challenges you see with young individuals and maybe some advice you would give them as they're trying to grow into this leadership role.
I think a lot of people struggle with being in a role thinking that they may not have everything it takes, especially when you're young and you're just learning those skills. It doesn't really require that to move up and to grow. It requires commitment. It requires dedication. It requires faith in yourself and your ability to learn. And so I think we underestimate our own potential and our own power to be effective because we sell ourselves short sometimes. And so I really encourage younger people to be a little bit more courageous, a little more adventurous with their career, to try new things, to stretch themselves a bit, to learn how to navigate, and to have that excitement about their career and not be fearful that maybe they don't have everything that it takes.
Yeah, and as you look at the growth of employees, what do you think is one of the biggest challenges you see with some of the younger employees that are maybe just starting their career and maybe thinking about growing? What advice would you give them?
I think they need exposure. I think I remember being young in government and thinking, the world was very narrow. And we tend to, box ourselves in government because it's such a huge system. And I think it's important to have patience in those earlier stages of your career. Try to learn as much as you can. Realize that working in government is a really great investment, not only for your future and your stability, but also for what you can give and what you can offer as you grow in your career and as you develop your skills.
So what do you think have been some of your biggest strengths? And you look at being in a leadership role with the county of San Bernardino or any county, it's been primarily a male-dominated field. How do you think you've been able to make the transition in a field that maybe has been so male-dominated for many years?
I think one is resiliency is key. Developing a level of resilience to withstand storms, withstand challenges, withstand opposition. Having that resilience and that strength and that commitment to just keep moving forward. I think, learning how to adapt to different circumstances and know where you can fit your leadership style in to really be a contributor, even if there's, you're maybe the only one in the room that has those types of opinions, but learning how to exercise that where you can and working with, assimilating with an organization that, needs that flexibility from you.
No, I think that's great advice. And one of the things for our young individuals, that everyone has their own leadership style and having to adapt and having to define your own style. And I guess as we wrap things up here, people that are interested in being leaders, we're all different. We have different personalities. What would be the last piece of advice you could give someone that's maybe interested in being a leader? And even though their style may be different than someone else's or a different approach, what would you give them advice? How would you give them advice?
Oh, I think first and foremost is don't discard your own personality in the process. Know that you come with a certain set of unique talents and strengths. And while you may not even see that or identify that around you, it's okay to be your unique self, because you will find your path forward and your contribution. And really, ultimately, that's the only way you can succeed, is really bringing your authentic self. Two, that there's just no one style of leadership. There are so many different styles of leadership, and it really also depends on the occupation and the field. So if you're feeling awkward or out of place, or you may not be going in the direction that suits you, then know that there's something out there that likely does, where you can develop those leadership skills.
No, I think that's great advice. And we appreciate you taking the time, Diane, and want to thank you for your great work with the County of San Bernardino, your leadership, and just watching you grow and grow within all these departments and really lead the way and set the path for others to follow. We appreciate that. So thank you for the great work. I just want to thank all of you for tuning in and listening to Diane Rundles, part of our executive leadership team with the County of San Bernardino, and have a great Women's History Month. Thank you so much for tuning in.